All right. Welcome to Blue Pill Podcast, everyone. This is Abe, your host. It is October 24th, 2025. That is basically the Hobbit theme song for Game Boy Advanced. Um, Obviously, if you clicked on the title, you know why I'm playing that as the intro. I just beat it 2 nights ago. And I've been reviewing. If you're new to the channel, I've been reviewing Game Boy Advance games, Game Boy Color games, and Game Boy games. Earlier this year, last year now, I moved into my mother-in-law's house, and all my video game systems are in storage. So I ended up getting a Game Boy Advanced, and because I was like in the mood to play video games, but I don't really have anywhere to hook it up and all that stuff, so I was like, fuck it, I'll just play portable games. And I got a Game Boy Advanced SP and just started playing through the Game Boy library, essentially, which has been fun. So, a little bit of channel info. If you go to my playlist, I have a game reviews playlist. It's all sorts of different Game Boy games that I've been covering. And this will actually be the second Lord of the Rings game that I review for the Game Boy Advanced. So I will make a playlist for it, a Lord of the Rings game review playlist. So look forward to that. If you want to find any Lord of the Rings games for Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Color that I'm reviewing, because they will be on there in the future. But yeah, I took a couple of days off, not on purpose really. So yesterday, I got called in early. My boss was sick, so I went in, and I work 4 to midnight like every day. So this was like one of the few times that my boss was like, hey, do you want to come in at 2 and get off at 10? So I'm like, hell yeah, dude. And then when I did get off, Sammy was up using the computer. And honestly, by the time I got around to being able to podcast, because she had to go to bed and for work tomorrow, I was just honestly tired. I was just laying around falling asleep, and I was like, no, I'll just wait. So sorry about the little bit of a couple days I haven't been podcasting. You guys know me, I'm usually doing it every day, but it is what it is. Life, sometimes. So let's get on with the game review. 2 more things I just remembered. I'm up to 496 subscribers. I'm trying to get to 500 subs on YouTube. That's my goal. So 4 more. If you could please like, share, and subscribe, that would be awesome. This isn't my main podcast. My main podcast is Conspiracy Corner, but I do put out Blue Pill Podcast episodes every now and then. Also, I have a Buy Me a Coffee account set up in the link below. If you want to donate, that would be cool. Alright, now let's get on with the show. So, first thing, playing this game. If you like Zelda, like old school top-down Zeldas, you'll love this game. It's a Zelda clone. Start off with basically a walking stick and stones. Stones are like your aerial attack for enemies far away. Walking stick is like for closer attacks. Until you get Sting, which you don't get Sting if you're a fan of The Hobbit, like reading the book. Or I don't like to compare it to the movie because, movies. Just a little side rant. Those movies are ridiculous. Like, I watched the very first one, and the first one wasn't bad, because at first I was like, when they were making it, and they said that The Hobbit was going to be a trilogy, I was like, that doesn't even make sense, because I've been a fan of Tolkien since I was a kid, and read like most of the books. The Hobbit is the shortest. It's basically essentially the prelude to the Lord of the Rings. Tolkien even said that he wrote that book for his children, which in a weird way, is kind of funny. It kind of shows you how education has gone downhill, because most people don't know that The Hobbit is literally a children's book, even though it's like that thick. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's literally a children's book. It's just kind of sad in a way. It shows how bad our education is. But it's the shortest book compared to Fellowship or Two Towers or Return of the King. So I was like, how are they making the shortest book into 3 movies? Makes zero sense. And then I seen the first one. First one wasn't bad because it was all canon. I don't recall them adding anything. And in the second and third Hobbit movie, they just added all sorts of scenes that were never in the book, characters that were never in the book, like Legolas is in there, just dumb, stupid stuff. Like, I don't know. I despise the movies. They relied heavily on CG, unlike the Lord of the Rings series. To me, it was just a cash grab. It was just garbage. So I won't be comparing it much to the movie. I'll be comparing it to the book, because also this game was created in like 2003, I believe. So all they had back then was the book. I do believe that. So there's 2 games that jumped in, who were smart and jumped in when they could. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Rings for Game Boy Advanced, and they made it for other platforms too. I did a review on that, which was made by a generic company who also made a Pirates of the Caribbean game. This was like a generic company who was smart. Like, anything that was trending at the time, they're like hopping on the train. So most of the games, when you think of the Lord of the Rings games, were made by EA. The Fellowship was not, and The Hobbit was not. And they were smart because the Lord of the Rings movies were out. The games were hits as far as the EA series, so they kind of jumped on the bandwagon, which is smart. This company is made by Sierra, which I don't know much about that company. This is like one of the only games I believe that I own or have played and reviewed for the channel by the company Sierra, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I had first come across it, actually the GameCube version, and I was so stoked at first because we had Two Towers and Return of the King for GameCube also. And at first I was super stoked because, yes, I like the EA Lord of the Rings games, but it doesn't feel like an adventure. It feels more like, I mean, the Game Boy Advanced one, Two Towers, that I've played so far, I will review that for the channel in the future. I just need to restart it and replay it. And by the way, that's a huge game. There's people who have like sank like 150 hours into it, and I'll get into that when I review that one. But that one felt more like an adventure, but I'm talking specifically the ones for like PlayStation 2 and GameCube and stuff. It didn't really feel like an adventure. It just kind of felt like, honestly, like a hack and slash. I would compare it maybe kind of like to Dynasty Warriors. Of like, they drop you in a level, make it to the end of the level. It feels a little dungeon crawly, but so it lacked the adventure feeling. So when The Hobbit came out and I got it for GameCube, I was so stoked because it felt more like an adventure. But I got stuck at basically when the goblins kidnap you in the cave and you're about to meet Gollum. I got stuck in that goblin dungeon hideout. It was so insane, the puzzles and shit. I'm not sure if I could do it if it was just because I did it when I played it when I was younger. Maybe if I played it now I could get past that, but I couldn't get past it, man. And it ruined the game for me. I was so sad. I was depressed. So I was concerned when I first got this one for Game Boy Color. I did watch a little bit of gameplay and I was like, oh, so it's like Zelda. You go around hacking people with Sting. There's also little puzzles. where it is a little better than Zelda as far as the puzzles is like, so that's one thing. I love the Zelda series. I have a playlist, go check it out. I've played through all of the Zeldas for Game Boy, Game Boy Color, and Game Boy Advanced and reviewed them all. I did a whole playlist on it, go check it out. But one frustrating thing about Zelda is sometimes the puzzles are way too fucking hard. And on this, the Hobbit for Game Boy Advanced, they're not that hard. Like, some of them are a little tricky. You got to figure them out. Like, I found myself trying to figure out a puzzle, and then I'd go watch a walkthrough. I am a casual gamer. Some people consider that cheating. It's whatever. I play games to have fun. But they weren't like overwhelmingly insane like Zelda or frustrating like Zelda. That's my only turn off with Zelda, is sometimes it's like, dude, I just want to grab a sword and hack and slash. And it's like super puzzle heavy sometimes, and the puzzles just break your brain and make you frustrated. This one, I didn't have that struggle. I really didn't get frustrated at all with this game. I mean, I died, 2 or 3 times, 3 or 4 here and there. But never at any point was I like tearing my hair out. So yeah, one thing that was pretty cool was, okay, I see. Sorry. One thing that was, it's just notes here, that was pretty cool is this game is pretty close canon. So I'm very open-minded in understanding that it's hard to take a game and base it off of a book or a movie without either adding some stuff or side stuff that never really happened, or turning something that was small into a bigger side quest. It's kind of impossible not to do that with a video game. So you can either do it well, like this, where most of it is pretty much by the book. I mean, there is like little side quest here and there, or like a main part or a section of the book, more adventure and fighting. Obviously, like, they have to have enemies in there because it's a Zelda clone, so there is more fighting in it than in the book. Like, and all the enemies are just random, like flying bats, random and kind of generic for adventure RPGs, which is fine. Like random bats who like shoot sonar beams at you. Slugs. Wolves. You fight wolves. Those are kind of cool. The animation form's actually pretty cool. Which, by the way, the sprites on this game are excellent. The sprites are excellent. The surroundings look beautiful. You really feel like you're in Middle Earth. They did a really good job on the music, the surroundings, the sprites. My only complaint, and I'll get back to the canon of it, my only complaint is, once again, dude, and it's not my Game Boy Advanced. It's not the hardware I'm using. Because I got a new game that I'm currently playing now. Now that I beat The Hobbit, I'm playing Treasure Planet for Game Boy Advance. The game is loud as fuck. I have to like turn it down. And this one does give you the settings to turn it up or down, sound effects and or music. I put it all the way up, and it's still, this game is quiet as fuck. And you guys know that I've been struggling with that with multiple games so far in the series. Like, Order of the Phoenix was super quiet. This game was super quiet. This one wasn't as bad as Order of the Phoenix, though. And I know it's not my Game Boy, because I played Ghost Rider the other day. That game was loud as fuck. I had to turn it down. There were certain points of either the soundtrack or just where it's a beat 'em up that I'd have to turn it down, because you could hear the speakers like rumbling and like gurgly. I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna break my Game Boy because the game was too loud. But I'd rather it be too loud than too quiet, man. I don't know what it is about making games back in the day with the Game Boy Advance specifically that a lot of companies were struggling with the audio of being too quiet. I don't know. I'm not a game designer. I'm not tech savvy, so I don't know what the issue is with that. But what I was saying though, and I'll finish off with that, with the canon side of it, is they kept pretty much to the book. Like I said, they didn't have the movies as a reference, which is good. And even then, they still didn't have licensing with the movies, even if they were out, you know, like where it is more of a generic film. I feel like Peter Jackson and I forget, was it? Yeah, it was New Line Cinema. I feel like New Line Cinema would not have chose Sierra. I think they would have chose EA and stayed with EA for all their games. I don't think they ever ventured off the path of not using EA games for the Lord of the Rings. And I'm pretty sure they wouldn't have done it with the Hobbit either. But yeah, it stayed pretty much to canon. Now there is some games that I've played where they go off the fucking rails, off the reservation, like Series of Unfortunate Events. Yes, it was an enjoyable game. I gave it a good review. I enjoyed it. But man, that game was like nothing like the original books. Which it was a game based off a movie, which was based off of 3 books crammed into 1 movie. But still, it was like, dude, this Lemony Snicket's got to be playing this. Like, what the fuck did you all do? You know, or he just enjoyed the paycheck, you know. So, with this game, I always remember, dude, this was back when, this will show you my age. I always wanted this game growing up. This one and Fellowship, when you would go to like Walmart to get a game, there would be, next to the games would be like a magazine rack. And instead of magazines, it'd be walkthroughs. And a lot of people would buy, if you had money, you would buy the walkthrough and the game at the same time. Especially if it was a game that you probably would need a walkthrough on, like maybe a Zelda or a Final Fantasy. And the reason why is, like, back then, dude, a lot of people still didn't have internet, you know, especially like poorer people. We had internet, but like, I don't know too, man, like we had internet, but like as a kid, even when we switched off a dial-up and got like good internet, we still did not use internet that often. We were just a different generation, man. We were always out skateboarding, going to the movies with girls, chasing girls, having band practice, doing punk shit. I don't know, I'm not trying to like stray too far from it, but it's just like, it is kind of sad. My generation compared to like now this generation, everyone's just on the computer and internet like 24/7. Like, kids don't go out and walk the streets anymore. It's bizarre. But anyways, so with this game, obviously don't waste your money on a walkthrough unless you want it for like collecting reasons, but or you find it at a yard sale or something, get the walkthrough. But you might want to keep an eye on what you're doing, whether it be playing along with someone who has made like a playthrough video. So this game has RPG elements. It's an action adventure like Zelda, but instead of hearts you have like an actual HP. So I only got my HP up to 50 because playing through the game I missed, they have what they call runes. So this kind of resembled the EA games for Game Boy Advanced, because in those games you could collect runes, either buy runes or buy stats. This one you just got to find them in treasure chest. And I missed out on a bunch of HP runes because the person, whenever I'd get stuck and I would check her channel because she did a complete playthrough, by the end of the game she had 70 HP. So I missed a lot of runes. Like, each rune boosts you up 5. So I was at 50. So I missed 4 different runes. I could have been at 70 HP. I'm not sure if that's the max. I would have to look it up. But yeah, so it's not hopeless. So one thing you can do, and it's either when you're loading the game or you have to push start. Anyways, you'll figure it out if you play the game. You are able to jump back to the previous save spot. So let's say you missed a rune in the last level. You can jump back to the previous save spot, and you have to play through. I guess it's almost kind of like grinding. So like at the very end of the game, I only had 50 HP. I could have technically jumped all the way back to, just kept jumping back to save spots. Would it be annoying? Hell yeah. That would be aggravating and annoying as hell, because you'd have to play through each of those levels again and do all that shit. Well, probably not do all that shit again, but you'd have to play through to get back to where you were, which would be fucking annoying. Because you could teleport backwards, but you can't teleport forwards. So keep an eye on that. I know, like I said, some people consider it cheating. That's on you. I play as a casual gamer. I use walkthroughs whenever I get stuck. I don't see nothing wrong with it. To me, it's kind of like talking to someone. It's kind of like life, really. Like, you're struggling with a problem in life. Someone comes along who's older and wiser and been through that shit, and they give you advice. You know, here's how to deal with it. But you do get other runes too, like a skill rune, a shield rune. So I'm not gonna lie, the only rune that I knew that did anything was the HP runes, like the heart runes, health runes, whatever they call them, because it literally boosts up your health and you can see the numbers go up. I have no clue what the skill rune or the shield rune do. I mean, I would think the skill rune maybe makes your attack stronger. The shield one would maybe make it to where when you get hit, you take less damage. Maybe that's what it is. Who knows? So one thing that they slipped up on this game, I know it's an action-adventure game and it's a Zelda clone. I understand that. And see, I've played the EA Two Towers game for, or no, I'm playing the Return of the King one, but I've also played the Two Towers one years ago. EA games with theirs, like I said, it's more of a hack and slash, but the thing is like, the Game Boy Advanced ones, most of the time that you would be, hang on, most of the time you would be solo, but there were certain sections of levels and certain levels to where you would, let's say you're playing as Gimli, you would have Legolas and Aragorn there helping you. This game, the entire game, it is just you until the very end scene. So the very end scene, I'm not going to spoil it, but I will tease it. The very end scene, and it's smart how they did this, because they're like, most people bought this game and were expecting something more of the EA style Lord of the Rings hack and slash. So the very last level on this game is actually hack and slash. It's pretty fucking cool. It's the Battle of the Five Armies. This is why, like I said, a little callback to earlier, you need 70 HP. Because they have a section, it's the very final stretch of the game, and you're supposed to be running away from the armies, and the dwarves are fighting alongside of you. And you're just fighting hordes of fucking goblins. It is literally a hack and slash part of the game. I'm talking hordes, and you're just button mashing and trying not to die. So I do think that the creators of the game were like, oh, you guys want EA style hack and slash? Here you go. And they saved it for the finale, which was kind of cool. It was very smart, like I said, because the whole game is like Zelda, and then at the very last level, it turns into a hack and slash war. And I'm like, that was genius. But it would have been cool, because in the Hobbit story, there's 13 dwarves, and then the whole thing is like Bilbo is supposed to be number 14, the lucky number, the burglar. But it would have been so fucking cool if, yes, I understand that the hardware, and it would have been difficult to have like 13 dwarves, you, and Gandalf all fighting alongside you. Like, that would have been difficult, but they could have like at least had dwarves with you every now and then, or even just Gandalf once in a blue moon. Like, he could stand back and like shoot stuff maybe from his staff, like on the EA games. So I don't know. I just felt like when I played it, I was like, yeah, I understand that it's supposed to be like a Zelda solo adventure, but they could have had, you could have had partners. Like, that would have been cool to have Gandalf with you. And it doesn't have to be every mission. It could have just been sections of the missions, you know? That would have been cool. A little more hack and slash style, maybe, but I don't know. It's just my thoughts on that. One thing a little frustrating is when you go to the options, the only option you have is the sound options, which, like I said, I couldn't tell any difference. It did not make the game loud enough, in my opinion, still. Yeah, I have to have a game that's pretty decently loud to hear it. Maybe I just struggle with hearing stuff or something, but the controls kind of... The only thing that aggravated me is, like, where it's a Zelda clone, they should have made, like, A and B. B is this is the way I set it up, was B was my main attack with Sting, or walking stick, whatever short range attack. And in L, you get different long range attacks. You can either throw a stone, a slingshot, a dart, or fireworks, which is fitting, like Gandalf's fireworks. But you have to use the L for it. And I wish that it had been more A and B. Like, I would have used A as my short range and then B as my long range. And then I don't know why they set it up like that. The only reason they set it up like that was because A, you use is to pick up rocks and throw rocks that get in your way. That was about it. Like, because that's one of the things you can do is pick stones up and throw them to get them out of your way. And you can throw them at enemies, which is useful. But I wish that they could have had like a controller configuration so I could style it my way and do it more Zelda-ish. I would have used probably like R1 to pick up rocks and throw them, A as my sword, and B as my long range attack. That's how I would have set it up. But once you get the controls down, it's not that hard. It's just a little frustrating, the control setup, and that's just a little thing. But the point that I did not have the options to change it and style it the way I wanted to was a little like, because there have been a lot of games that I've played where I thought the control setup was just flat out retarded, but they give you the option to change it and you can set it up the way you like, and it's like, okay, this is better, you know, and it makes the game a billion times better. One thing that I thought was cool was there was this beautiful scene, and it's in the book and it's in like some of the cartoons, and I'm pretty sure it was in the live action movie too, but where they're lost in Mirkwood and Bilbo climbs to like the tallest tree and looks out, and there's just this beautiful sun and just hundreds of butterflies. And they never have any dialogue or anything. It's actually kind of like a little Easter egg secret spot that you have to find, like just going off trail in Mirkwood. And you climb the tree and you get to the very top, and it's just the top of the trees with hundreds of butterflies, and there's like this beautiful music. So I don't know, as a Lord of the Rings fan, I thought that was really cool that they like kept that in the game and added that in the game, as just like a little Easter egg of like, hey, remember this beautiful point, you know. But I loved the game. My final review on it, I would say I'll give it a 8.5 out of 10. Very rarely do I give out 10s. I'll give it an 8.5 because it was an excellent game. The length of the game seemed decently long, which I am a busy guy. I have a day job, a podcast, a busy life. So I felt like it took me a little while to beat this game, but yeah, it was I give it an 8.5 out of 10. It was a good game. If you like Zelda, you would like this. It's a Zelda clone. If you like Lord of the Rings, you would like this. I loved it. You all have a good day. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you later.